The free movement of people and goods is a major plank in the construction of Europe, on paper at least. In reality, roads are saturated, railways underutilized, complementarity between modes of transport is rare, certain outlying regions are badly served, and then there are always the natural obstacles to be overcome. The first to be penalized are Europe's citizens and its economy.
Hay un problema clarísimo que aparece, que son las interconexiones transfronterizas, donde ahí se producen grandes fallos y donde además vemos que no solo no se construyen las infraestructuras, sino que cuando se construyen se suelen construir de una manera asimétrica, yendo más deprisa de un lado que del otro de la frontera, en función de la urgencia y de la importancia de la infraestructura para uno de los dos países, como suele ocurrir en los casos transfronterizos.
Historically, each country developed its public transport system within its own borders, concerning itself only rarely with cross-border links. Conclusion: Europe is too heavily compartmentalized. What are missing are transnational traffic routes. To create them, the European Union is encouraging its member states to provide better connections between their transport networks. This obviously involves a series of major construction projects. In 1994, in Essen, a list of 14 priority projects was adopted by the European Council. Although several projects have not yet been completed, the time has come to bring this list up to date. In effect, transportation needs are expected to double 15 to 20 years from now, and the enlargement of the European Union considerably increases the need for transport infrastructure. On the basis of a report presented by a group of experts appointed by Mrs. de Palacio, whose chairman Mr. Carl van Miert was the former European Commissioner, the Commission is proposing a total of up to 30 priority projects to be completed between now and 2020, because they're judged to be in Europe's interest.
Gran parte de los nuevos proyectos que planteamos obedecen precisamente a cubrir esa necesidad de construir ligaciones, uniones entre los distintos países de la Unión Europea, es decir, a dar respuesta con criterios europeos globales y no con criterios nacionales. El primer objetivo es construir unas infraestructuras para poder garantizar la realidad del mercado interior y la competitividad de la economía en su conjunto.
The projects selected address a series of priorities: revitalization of railways and waterways, transport intermodality and interoperability of rail, bottlenecks and missing links, bringing enlargement countries in line, and, last but not least, crossing natural barriers including the Alps. Almost everyone is familiar with the queues of cars and trucks at the foot of the mountain on the French-Italian border. The Lyon-Turin-Budapest link is more of a priority than ever. This high-speed goods and passenger line will ease congestion in the road tunnels under the Alps, which are on the point of saturation. The Iberian Peninsula suffers from the same handicap. The Pyrenees bar its route to the rest of Europe, leaving only two narrow corridors. In the longer term, it's therefore planned to build a high-capacity rail connection to prevent the asphyxiation of the Pyrenean valleys. But first, it's necessary to address the incompatibility of the rail networks in Spain and Portugal, whose track is about 20 centimeters wider, with those of the rest of the Union. Our priority project concerns the refurbishment of the TGV network. On the one hand, laying a third rail to allow standard trains to operate, and on the other, by using variable width axles. In the coming years, travelers will be able to cross the entire continent of Europe by high-speed train. It's also possible to get around natural obstacles such as the Alps and the Pyrenees by way of the sea. Hence the proposal to circle Europe with 4 motorways of the sea. The idea is to create regular shipping lines dedicated to goods. They will serve a limited number of ports, but with the capacity, speed and punctuality to compete with road transport. There is a twin objective here: to relieve overused zones such as the Transalpine regions and the centre of Europe, but also to link isolated or outlying zones within the Union. There is a specific problem with the Baltic Sea. Icebound for part of the winter, an adequate fleet of icebreakers will be necessary to keep traffic moving. This, however, is only the tip of the iceberg. To enable traffic to run smoothly, logistical and administrative procedures in the ports must be speeded up. Satellite monitoring systems for cargo is one possibility. In some cases, the connections between the ports and the road and rail networks must be improved. To complete the square formed by the maritime motorways, the Commission proposes creating a series of rail and road axes in the east of the European Union. The objective is to link the Baltic states with southern Europe. These routes will cross accession countries whose needs in terms of transport infrastructure are enormous. In Poland, for example, the port of Gdansk occupies a key position on the north-south axis. But its development has been slowed by the mediocre quality of its access routes. To get to the port, trucks use Highway number 7, a medium-sized road representative of all the transport infrastructure in the country. Bottlenecks abound, certain infrastructure are too old, and safety is uncertain.
Among the three most quoted reasons not to invest in Poland, one of them is always infrastructure. Is it railways? Is it highways? Is it harbors? Sometimes airports? But definitely infrastructure and its quality. It's one of the reasons not to invest in Poland.
Several priority projects directly concern Poland, notably the construction of a motorway linking Gdansk to Brno and Vienna, as well as the modernization of the railway from the port to Warsaw in the south on an almost parallel axis. In fact, there's no question here of upsetting the rail-road balance and handing everything over to road, a mistake made by the West in certain decades.
Poland is a country perfectly fit to have an excellent railway connection. So we would like to keep this multimodal structure as close as possible, using the historical preference of railway and using also the geographical conditions which make railways the best choice.
In a wider sense, given the number of priority projects directly concerning the railways, the European Union is clearly aiming at a modal rebalance.
Significa che la Commissione europea ha capito l'importanza di ridare slancio alle ferrovie. Ogni singola ferrovia europea sta facendo moltissimo per migliorare le sue performance, il suo livello di qualità, stiamo rinnovandoci investendo moltissimo.
Another aim of the European Commission is to revitalize certain modes of transport, including the waterways. A waterway made up of the Rhine, the Main and the Danube offers a navigable waterway crossing all of Europe from the North Sea to the Black Sea. Unfortunately, several bottlenecks hamper the passage of larger boats. The biggest of these is in southern Germany. This is the Danube between Straubing and Vilshofen, a few kilometers from the Austrian border. The crew of the Johannes Kepler know this stretch of water by heart. They travel it regularly aboard their vessel equipped with sonar to monitor the river's depth. There's been no rain for several weeks. The situation is critical.
Auf diesem Abschnitt der deutschen Donau haben wir aber die geringste Fahrrinnentiefe und aufgrund des diesjährigen Niedrigwassers können wir also zum Beispiel am heutigen Tag der Schifffahrt nur 1,69 Meter Fahrrinnentiefe garantieren. Und viele Schiffe haben schon einen Leertiefgang von 1,20 Meter, 1,30 Meter, sodass sie eventuell nur noch bis zu 20% der normalen Ladungsmenge transportieren können. Und das ist ein hoher wirtschaftlicher Verlust für die Schifffahrt.
The problem is that between Straubing and Vilshofen, the Danube's bed rises nearly a meter. Depending on the water level, the ship's ability to pass is sometimes a matter of a centimetre or two. It's moreover not uncommon to see barges forced to wait several days for the water level to rise. Different solutions have been studied from the point of view of their efficiency and their environmental impact. Depending on the chosen option, up to 8 million tons could transit via the Straubing-Vilshofen section. This would bring welcome relief to the particularly congested roads in this part of Europe. However, the future of European transport is also being played out in space with the Galileo project. This satellite navigation system, which is more efficient than the American GPS, should be operational by 2008. It'll allow a multitude of applications such as vehicle guidance, location tracking of goods in real time, and rail traffic management. It'll contribute to making traffic more fluid on the ground, on the sea, and in the air. So it's clear there's no lack of projects, but the big question is their cost.
Yo calculo que haría falta para estar a la altura de las demandas del orden de los 230-250 mil millones de euros para el 2013. Y para el 2020-2025 estaríamos hablando en torno a los 600.000 millones de euros.
But who will pay the bill? That's a very good question because it's a thorny problem. Let's go around the table. Even if they agree to make an extra effort, the member states alone cannot pick up the bill without risking budget problems. On average, each country should contribute 1% of its GNP. 1.5% in the accession countries, so great are their needs. So they're all holding out their hands for community funds, including the European Commission's transport budget.
Yo espero que en las próximas perspectivas financieras los Estados de la Unión estén dispuestos a multiplicar por 7 mínimo la actual cifra destinada a las redes transeuropeas. 600 millones de euros al año es claramente insuficiente para dar una respuesta a las necesidades que hay frente a la Unión Europea y para tener ese efecto catalizador y acelerador de obras de interés transeuropeo. Tenemos que incrementar la tasa de cofinanciación, pero insisto, fondos públicos no son suficientes.
In concrete terms, for transport projects of European interest, the Commission is proposing to increase its share of the co-financing to 30% instead of 10%. Paradoxically, the Member States and the Parliament will have to agree to this, as it's they who authorise community budgets. To make up for the lack of means, everyone is finally suggesting calling in a third musketeer, the private sector, which, it's true, has considerable funds. But will it be easy to persuade business, contrary to all current trends, to make heavy investments which will be profitable only in the relatively long term? This is far from certain. Perhaps, therefore, inspiration should be found in what happens elsewhere.
Un pays qui n'est pas dans l'Union européenne est cité comme modèle, c'est-à-dire la Suisse, qui a mis en place une taxation de l'usage des infrastructures et le produit de cette taxe qui est perçu sur les camions, sur les voitures, y compris d'ailleurs sur les camions de l'Union européenne, pour construire des tunnels et on fera du ferroutage, c'est-à-dire qu'on mettra les marchandises sur des trains plutôt que sur des routes qui encombrent les vallées alpines.
There's now no doubt that a number of different sources of finance have to be mobilized, and nothing will be possible if one of them drops out. Europe is faced with a vital challenge for the future of its economy. But will it learn from the lessons of the past? Of the first investments decided upon at Essen in 1994, up until now, only 30% have been mobilized. It only remains to be seen if Europe lives up to its ambitions.